Welcome everybody. It's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, depending from where you listen us. Welcome to the Kaunas Virtual Smart City Dialogue. It's the third session of this dialogue webinar. The first two ones we listened to last week. I guess most of you did too. And today is the last one in this series. And before we start, we would like to inform you a little bit of what's coming up. As part of this project, we will have two more dialogues. One is planned for Kiel in northern Germany in September of this year, and the last one will come up at the end of this year in Riga or with Riga, depending on if it's going to be physical meeting or a webinar. But for sure, the next one in Kiel will be a webinar. And after our first dialogue in Tartu in May on the topic of collaboration models, and the second one now, the Kaunas dialogue on the topic of open data and smart city concepts, we will like to just give you a very short intro to what's coming up in September. So, Benno, would you like to say a few words to the Kiel dialogue? Benno is our coordinator from Adelphi, located in Berlin.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, just a few words on our upcoming webinar series. So we will have 3 webinars again. And we are very happy to be able to implement this webinar series with the German city of Kiel, who are very active in this field. And we will have 3 sessions with 3 different topics that will build on each other. The first one will focus on how to conceptualize smart city projects for climate mitigation. And we want to include also perspectives that focus on some of the potential risks when implementing smart solutions such as rebound effects. We will then move on to a session where we zoom into different cases and will integrate cases from the city of Kiel as well as from the Baltics. And at the end, we would like to have an open forum as we had in Tartu, where we would like to discuss the question of participation and citizen orientation in more detail and what lessons we can draw from Kiel and the Baltics. As Frank has said, these webinars will take place in September. The dates are not yet finalized, but most likely will be on the 8th, 17th and the 22nd. You will find more information on our project website, balticsmartcity.com, and we will also inform you on the registration link. We very much invite you to all join this continuation of our webinars. And yeah, I'm already looking forward, and I wish us a very good discussion today for today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Benno. I forgot to introduce myself. Sorry for that. Frank Grage, I'm the moderator, also located close to Berlin today, part of the Steinbeiß network, a German-based technology and knowledge transfer organization. So today we will talk about the third part of the Kaunas webinar, and this is on the public sector and perspectives and requirements coming from initiatives and opportunities in open data initiatives. We will have 4 speakers again, and we will have a panel discussion at the end. And we would very much encourage you to use the chat function of this Zoom tool also during the presentations. Post your questions and your comments along the way, and we'll come back to that then in the discussion at the end. Before we start, we also will include again some polls, and as usual we'll test if the poll works, and also would like to know some facts from your side, from the participants. First one, your sector, which sector do you represent? Looks like a good mix again. Okay, that's what we expected according to the topic of today. Public side is prominent, also the private side and some academia. Okay, thanks a lot. The second question before we start is about your knowledge on open data so far. So here it comes. How would you assess your knowledge about open data? And we saw some increase from the first to the second one already. And of course, we have a little bit of changing participation here, but anyway, yeah, it's good, let's say, mid-field competences so far. Hope that this webinar will gain some more insights and competences which you find helpful and useful. Okay, thank you very much. Now, before we start, I would like to hand over to our host, to the group from Kaunas University of Technology. And today, the director of the Institute of Environmental Engineering is again with us, and she will just give us a short intro to the topic of today. Saneta, please inform us what's going on.
Okay, so thank you, Frank, and hello to everyone. And I'm really happy that you joined this last webinar, which is arranged or organized by Institute of Environmental Engineering, Kaunas University of Technology. And I hope you really enjoyed the previous two ones. So just an introduction, I would like to stress the main issue that we live in a world where more and more people are concentrated in cities, and more will be in the next years. So the need for a sustainable and efficient development makes smart cities more a necessity than anything else. So open data has also become essential when it comes to developing and improving smart cities. More and more infrastructures allow data to be collected even in a real time, and the data can be of a great value for the development of the city and its citizens. Therefore, during our cycle of the webinars, we try to answer the question, how can open data help smart cities and foster the climate change mitigation? So just to refresh your memory, I would like to remind who were presenters on our first webinars. So Gabriela Čepeliauskaitė from Kaunas University of Technology introduced the open data myths and how to disperse them. And we had very interesting introduction of the Lithuanian experience presented by Julius Norkūnas from Lithuanian Transport Innovation Center. Then we have interesting presentation made by Emilia Kerpaitė from Ignitis Group, and I'm really happy to have this group on board during our webinars. Then we have this more global view on digital innovations, which were presented by chairman of the board by Smart Energy Digital Innovation Hub, Vidmantas Janulevičius. And then it was very nice to wrap up to our Baltic experience, which was presented by our colleagues from Germany, Leon Lauser, Estonia, Marek Muiste, and Latvia, Kristaps Kaugur. And what we revealed? We revealed like an outcome of our first seminar, that lots of awareness raising still needed. So we should stress how the open data are important and what it is and what is not open data and how open data can help us. And also we need integrate more actors to better understand the necessity steps to become more open and facilitate the processes of the innovation. Also, we would like to show that service providers they see like a great value in opening their infrastructure for new ideas and innovations. And also they need like a sandbox for their innovations. Also, the sharing of open data has to be well prepared, and data should be double checked, and only then they should become available. And also, we have to ensure possibility for companies to collaborate with cities, and also to better identify the issues of their own data sets. The second webinar, I was really happy to get so good responses from you, from participants of the webinars. And during that webinar, we heard how the sustainable mobility can become this citywide habit. And this idea was introduced by Justas Petronis. The smart meters importance was introduced by Janina Kulikian from Lithuanian energy company. Then we have very nice presentation by our colleagues from Estonia, Mari Sone. She's a project manager from Estonian startup. She presented the food waste regulation from this startup view. Also, I was really happy to have on board Darius Montvila, which is CEO and chair of the board at Ignitis Group. And she's one who is like a leading the first world prosumer platform. And he made a very interesting presentation on the prosumers, remote prosumers or community solar system. So also the panel revealed that legislation is an issue. So businesses also need a testbed to try their innovations, their ideas. Also, cities, in order to develop in a sustainable way, be very climate friendly, have to understand the problems and causes, and only after that they have to employ the systematic solutions. And businesses need to coordinate their ideas with cities. This is like a kind of a repetition going through all the webinars. And this ensures that the businesses' initiatives complement the strategy of the city and not undermine it or go in different directions. So also we revealed that climate-sensitive innovators are usually more open and more willing to cooperate and share their findings. And also, the public sector should be encouraged to change and should get the support and help how to perform this change. So this is like a short wrap up of two very interesting sessions and what will be today. And I hope you really enjoy the 4 presentations from today. It will be presentation on the importance of creating a centralized and standardized the data platform. And the presentation will be given by Gintautas Mežetis, which is head of the Information Society Development Committee of Republic of Lithuania. Then we have the very interesting, I hope, and I believe that it will be very interesting, the presentation from our friends from Latvia about the mobility point in the VEF, Innovation District and Open Data. The presentation will be made by Lasma Ivaska. And then I really hope you will enjoy Donatas Baltrušaitis, an architect and urban innovator. And he will be presenting the sustainability compass of the comprehensive plan of the Republic of Lithuania. That will be really very, I think, involving and interesting presentation. And like a wrap up of the day will be the presentation by Egle Radvile, Vilnius City Startup Booster, CTO and advisor on innovation issues in Vilnius City Municipality, which and Egle will introduce as Intelligent Energy Lab, and how it is important for smart city, and it's much more and things involved in this. So I hope you will really enjoy today's webinar. Frank?
Here. Thank you very much, Saneta. Yeah, thank you first of all for setting up such a good program, the last 2 ones, and also today as you wrapped up and introduced. And yeah, let's get started. Before I hand over to our first presenter, just one more short question to the participants as a bridge to the first insights then. So one poll, the last one now, is about how much of data generated in your organization is open so far. And then we'll hear how Gintautas Mizėtis will discuss what's going on the Lithuanian platform data.gov.lt. So Gintautas, maybe you would like to start sharing your screen already, so we can save a minute here. Okay, so it looks like we have a quite equal distribution here between little openness, moderate, or as much as possible. So maybe we will hear from Gintautas how to interpret this, these results, at least from the Lithuanian perspective. Okay, thank you, participants, and please, Gintautas, start your presentation.
Hello. I'm Gintautas Mizėtis. I work as Information Society Development Committee Director in Lithuania under Ministry of Economy and Innovation in Lithuania. As committee, we work to increase the information speed in Lithuania by building the platforms, IT platforms like governmental electronic gates, like Open Data Portal, or building a IT resources platform. And in this presentation, I will look at 3 topics, like let's define what open data is, how to sell the idea of opening the data and why you should do that, and tools to do that, and big picture where the open data lies. So first, with open data, I would like to look at a definition of open. It's exposed, direct, it's progressive, it's willing to change, and it is available and approachable. You do not need to feel a resistance trying to do that. But the same open data is not opening PDFs or pictures, because this information is not accessible actually, because it can be interpreted and managed only by human. And if we want to build a system, smart cities, and to tackle different challenges, we need to think about data in computer or machine readable format. So for it to be comprehensible to computers, we need to agree on structured data and to open the data at a certain level. And this is what I define the data. It's data which is already readable to computer, which we can reuse easily. And one of the challenges we face is how to sell the idea to open the data, because the open field for certain institutions, companies and people, they feel exposed and vulnerable. And for them, we had a discussion how to sell the idea to them, why they should open and what are the benefits of opening. And looking at the opening process, what results we get by opening the data? It's the open data itself, and by definition, it's structured data. And with open data, we want to achieve a transparency and secondary use of the said data. It's the benefits of results. So unstructured data makes easier to find that data. It's as it is structured, it's clearly, you can understand what is the context and content of the data. And taking these benefits, you can start to think about what value of the data, which I understand from my emotions, and what is the selling points of opening. So if I'm transparent, I can increase the trust of my clients, of my surrounding ecosystem. As I am a user of a certain company, I can audit its practices. With secondary use of data, I can build a new services. I can increase the value of the data I am producing inside my everyday activity. With easy to find, I just find it faster. By finding faster, I have much more free activity, not answering the, how to say, repeatable questions, same questions I get from a market. I can focus on my value producing activities, not like trying to find the data inside my company to provide an answer to the whoever requests that. With clear context of the and content data, I can understand that. Because if I take the data from some source, I know where was it taken and what is the structure and what does that data mean. And I can use it right away. At the moment, we have a lot of data sources, but these sources to collect and to use that data, we spend more than 80% of time just collecting and trying to get what this data means. So by opening structured data on agreed standards, we cut this 80% and go to real services creation. So to be able to agree upon how we open and data and where to find, in Lithuania, we created Data.gov LT portal, which allows us to agree in one place how to open the data, where to put the links of the data, how to describe the set data, and what data levels, and give you the tools to do that. Without mutual understanding how we open and how we describe the data in Lithuania and in Europe, we will open something in our organizations, but it will stay just exposed only to our organization and our close partners. But if we pull all the data into one place, it increases its value. So portal is running, we already increasing the data sets, and all these data sets can be used to create new services. And looking at the big picture, this open data is just one of the puzzle pieces in the big picture. How to create a digital ecosystem where we all want to live. In government, we are trying to build and to sell and to move towards this idea of real-time government as a platform. And open data is one of these building blocks. And the users is everyone around. It's businesses, it's citizens, it's science, and we should not look only into our internal Lithuanian means. We mean sharing the same data with our partners in Europe and getting their data. And this data portal is connected to the European data portal. And if you put your data set onto Lithuanian portal, your data set automatically appears on Europe. And with this, we get much bigger exposure, and we can present what data we have here in Lithuania. We can present what we managed to do with this set data, and we can drive this data-driven economy and grow on that. So to conclude, let's talk more on definition of data. Let's agree how good data should look like, not only talk open data as a buzzword, but let's agree what we consider good open data. Then let's become how to say, sellers of idea of opening the data and selling the idea. Because now I feel that there is not enough salesmen of the idea inside government, inside businesses for openness concept. And then let's see the big picture and what benefits we can have as all ecosystem by going open and real time. So that's my presentation. If you have additional questions, I would be very interested to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vytautas, for your overview. Let me just start the picture too. Okay, we have a couple minutes left, so there has been already two questions to you. The first one goes to the financial side. So if you as a on the governmental side open up data and municipalities are required to open up for certain services, for certain tools. So who's covering the cost? How is it organized in Lithuania between municipalities and the government?
Looking at opening data, you had a cost involved at setting up the opening algorithms to be able to open your data safely. That's correct. But at the same time, we have a lot of legacy information systems which were not designed to be able to open the data. A cycle of a new generation of IT tools is about 7 to 8 years. So openness, it should be by design in the system. You should look at application programmable API, interfaces, APIs, and implement into the design to be able to open. And depending on your data sets you are opening, you do it once and revise only when changing your information structure inside your organization. It is not like a really, really big cost to maintain it. And if you are experiencing big costs at keeping your data open, that means it's commercial use and you are free to charge for that. So I don't see a cost of open data as a barrier to open the data. It's just how you open and how you look at the opening of the data.
Question of the business model or the setup, the service setup. Yeah. Okay, one more just came in. What are the main challenges in federating the smart city urban platforms and how can these be addressed?
One of the challenges we face is data literacy. To understand what is data is. If we are talking about the processes which follow the documents and they just capture the document path in an electronic environment, that's not really digital driven process. Then we will start thinking about data and data driven processes and only export or generate documents if needed for certain decision maker for actor, then it will be much easier to address and to agree how we combine, how we share, and how we make a use of the data. Because opening something what is in documents, that's a huge effort to digitize and to keep up to date. But if we have digital processes, it is just default by design.
Okay, thanks a lot. So let us know if these answers are clear. Otherwise, just use the chat and keep on commenting and asking. I would move on to our second presentation. We're coming to Riga. Lasma Ivaska, Innovation Lead and Project Manager at Refresh, and we'll talk about the Mobility Point and BEF and Innovation District, which is working in close collaboration with the city of Riga, as I understood. So please, would you like to share the screen and start your presentation?
Yes, hello. I hope you can hear me well. I will share my screen just now. Okay, Yes, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to hear that we in Baltics and Germany are discussing open data. In terms of innovation, it's a super important topic. And today I want to share our experience in Riga about opening the first mobility point and including as a part of it a test bed where companies will be able to install and deploy their sensors and share the data with anyone who is interested. But I will start with a short intro about what is VEFRESH and what is VEF Innovation District, so that you would have some background about how did we get to this project that we're working on together. So VEF District is a historical industrial district in Riga. And last year, it was the celebration of 100 years anniversary. And thinking about the next 100 years, the companies of the district came together and decided that there is a need to refresh this district and to redevelop it as a competitive innovation district in Baltic Sea region. And the companies that established this initiative are both technology companies like Accenture and LMT, and also real estate developers like Jauna Teika and New Hansa Capital. So if we're speaking about smart city, then this is a great combo of both property owners and technology companies that we have here. And why it's important to talk about VEF district in the context of Riga is because it's quite a unique district, because without any external initiatives or special projects, this has become the IT hotspot in the country. It employs altogether more than 4,000 IT specialists. It together creates more than 40% of the whole country's IT export. And also it's a huge contributor to the country's budget in terms of taxes. We work with four different fields: innovation, infrastructure, inspiration, which is a cool way of saying events, and also education. And mobility point and open data we see as a question of both innovation and infrastructure. But to get to the point about mobility point and open data, so this is a project that is developed by Riga Energy Agency. And how we became involved was that about a year ago, when they had developed this first idea and the first project vision, they came to us to talk about what do we think as the neighborhood representatives, and what do the technology companies here think of this and potential collaboration. And one of the things that we understood that is missing in the overall public infrastructure in Riga is easy access to public infrastructure for testing purposes. Basically, if you have an IoT device, any kind of sensor that you want to put in the public space in Riga, the process how to get it from your company to the street is currently not defined. There is no set procedure how the companies have to go about this. And that's why we thought that this could be the first place where this process could be easy, where it is defined and companies can easily test their latest innovations in public space. And if you look at the picture, then you can see on the ground level, there is the mobility point infrastructure. It's basically a place where you can change your previous mode of transportation to another. Scooters, bike stands are available there. But you can also see a utility pole in the background. It also has the lines around it, and that is the particular location of the test bed of this place, where there is electricity access, where there is Wi-Fi connection, and companies can put on their sensors or cameras for computer vision solutions and any other smart city solutions that they want to test and see whether they work as they have planned it. And this is like a different type of visual, how it would look like in the real life. This is one of the companies that has already agreed to put on sensors there. Basically, it's a small box on the utility pole. And yes, for a random pedestrian passing by, it will probably not attract a lot of attention. But in this small box, it already has 14 different functions, 14 different sensors that gather data about the surrounding environment. And one of the important aspects that we have decided on is that all companies that use this public infrastructure, that use this utility pole for testing their sensors, they have to open their data and make it accessible for the public. So basically, opening data is the price that they are paying for this opportunity to use public infrastructure for their needs. And the user journey for companies that want to use this is kept at this point to the minimum amount of involvement to ease the administrative burden. I have to say that the mobility point will be officially opened in the 1st of July. So this is our initial idea how this will work out, and we will see that in case something is still problematic, we might change this, but this is our first idea of the user journey. So yes, the businesses to deploy sensors there will have to fill out a simple form about the solution they want to test and the data they want to gather. Then they will sign a contract about using this utility pole for testing needs. And this contract will also include a requirement to provide access to their data. And once this contract is signed, they can deploy the device and start streaming data. In terms of the contract requirements, the things that we have set is that firstly, they store data on their own servers. So they don't have to store it at Riga City Council servers or anywhere else. This is the easiest solution for businesses. So this is the one that we have also chosen here. But they have to provide this access point to data, this API endpoint, and they have to enable anyone interested to get data from this endpoint in machine readable format. So we are currently thinking about JSON and CSV format, but in case we will see that there is demand for different ones, we can also include different format requirements. And of course, they will need to provide documentation so that the companies can use the data effectively and efficiently and not be confused about what is the information they get. And behind the scenes, what would be our role is that once we get the request from the company, the form, we then inform the city council. At this point, it seems that the traffic department would be the main point of contact. And we inform them about the data and about the solution. In case it's a machine vision solution, probably involvement of data inspectorate will be needed, but it would be our role to kind of attract it and get the company speaking with data inspectorate and getting all the aspects in line. And once the contract is signed and the device is deployed, we would have a specific page on our homepage, which is befresh.com. And city council then can determine which of this data is relevant for them and if they are interested to publish it also in data.gov.lv. So it's similar page that Gintautas that just talked about data.gov.lt. And why this setup? So firstly, we see this, as I already mentioned, the minimal administrative burden for companies. Currently, if a large company is trying to put any sensors on the streets, then maybe they are successful within a few months. But for startups, this is really complicated to devote time and resources when they are really pushing towards commercialization. So yes, minimum administrative burden, that's a priority. Then about why we're not primarily using data.gov.lv is that it is primarily meant for state and municipality data. There is no set procedure how to get company data on this portal. So that's why the involvement of Riga City Council, because if they decide that this data is relevant, then they can push it to be also visible there. Third reason, which is also very important, is that this location will be a test bed. So there can be errors in the data, and that's okay. But what it means, it doesn't mean that the data is not usable. Still, there could be developers or startups that are looking for this type of data that they can use to train their algorithms or develop new solutions. So it is usable for some purposes, but if the data is provided in an official state portal, then probably there can be some issues with how precise should it be and who should vouch for this precision. So that's why testbed data can have errors, but that doesn't mean it's usable. So we publish the data primarily, and then secondly, if the state and municipality wants, they can also use it. And the last but not least reason why we as an intermediary are involved is that if we open data but don't actively talk about it, then do we have really opened data? So I think in whole Europe, there's a big question that municipalities and governments are opening their data, but they are not actively promoting its use. And this would be something that we would also actively work on to organize hackathons, get more companies involved, and that would be also one of our tasks with this mobility point and open data. Yes, that is it from my side. I hope that this was relevant for you and interesting as a different way to work with open data. In short, my last remark would be that if country has this official portal of data, there still is a need for a private marketplace or private initiatives working with open data, because the state and government cannot really fulfill all the requests and all the needs. So if we think about open data, let's think also about marketplace for private open data. Thank you.
Plasma, thank you very much for this collaborative approach from Riga, and I'm sure we come back to that in the panel discussion later on. But at this moment, I would like to move on. Before we start the next talk, we heard a lot about the benefits now from also in your presentation. Let's have a little insight to the participants here. Two questions. First one is about the biggest internal institutional benefit of open data in the organization you work in. Okay, looks like resource management is the main seen as the biggest benefit for the internal use. And yeah, thank you. And the second question would be, what is the biggest external institutional benefit of the open data? The second one starts now. Okay, so very forward-thinking group we have here, accelerating innovations, by far the biggest benefit as you see it. Thank you very much. And this is, I guess, a perfect handover to our next speaker, Donatas Baltutarakis, architect and urban innovator, founder of BAU. Hope this is pronounced right. And yeah, so you see what the participants think about the benefits. Looking forward to your presentation about the sustainability compass of the comprehensive plan in Lithuania.
Okay, hello everyone. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so perfect. Thanks for the introduction. So I am the owner of the company Bauland, and right now, indeed, we're creating the sustainability compass, spatial compass, which is based on territorial data of whole Lithuania, with several main goals. And jumping to the slides that I have with you, I will have to apologize because I don't have too much of time, but I think you will get perfectly the idea how we are using the big data, let's say, in practical use and in the highest territorial planning document of Lithuania. So parts of the presentation are in English and some other are in Lithuanian, but I will translate. So don't worry. So yeah, Spatial Compass 2030, Principle of Operation, Functional Regions, Specified Solutions. Basically, we are developing an instrument which is aimed to not only to gather data, but actually see how to use it comprehensively for certain main goals. And the main goals are indicated in this scheme. It indicates in Lithuanian lively urban structures as top priority goal for urban structures. Lively ecosystems, healthy ecosystems, and also the third goal is being efficient bioproductive territories. So these three main goals are basically the aim vision for Lithuania 2050, a document which was already and is still being prepared for 2 more years. And now we're at the stage where we want to use this data. So basically, how this compass works and what kind of data does it include in it. So the main aim is to take the data which is relevant for which indicates the existing potential of natural environment. Then we have vertical section of different indicators being on the top and on the bottom. I will explain later the different parts of the compass. And then the horizontal section is defined to show the existing territorial potential of anthropogenic environments. So basically man-made and natural systems in coherence. They should work perfectly in balance and in harmony. Balancing out the activity of people, basically, and then how to put this into use. So the Lithuanians who are joined in this discussion, they will understand it this scheme better. But basically, as I mentioned before, we gather data in 4 different sections of the compass. The top one indicates the economic use, and it indicates the data, which is mainly about forests that are being used for economic purposes, then agricultural lands, geological resources, and so on. So basically, this compass part takes the existing of resources which should be used by people in the future in specific territories. And on the bottom you have we have the Natura 2000 network, all the protected landscape areas, national regions, and so on, which must remain, let's say, natural, but also an effective use. So this, when we cross these territorial data indicators and make schemes out of them, we can see clearly the potential for future preservation, use, or an anthropogenic section potential for development. Because on the right side, you see we have mobility infrastructure, which indicates the main data of public transport, of trains, buses, different elements of, as for example, bicycle infrastructure, the length of them, and on the left side we have intensity of public services and then the number of labor capital. Let's say the actual number of employed people in a certain area. So so when we combine these two data sets, we can provide we can gather we can make a scheme which clearly shows, for example, if the main goal is to generate successful, thriving urban areas, you have to plan accordingly these areas for priorities where there is existing mobility infrastructure and where there is socio-cultural and economic capital. Otherwise, it would be a waste of investment and resources. So that's the main parts of the compass. Then these data sets are sometimes vectorial. It is important to base them to provide through different methods to basically cut them into smaller pieces of grids, and then we can gather these different potential schemes. As I said, this is anthropogenic section. So this was the first draft map. So intensity of color indicates, for example, the blue in this case is the mobility infrastructure potential, and then this crossbreed of public services shows shows the places where there is existing mobility infrastructure plus the socioeconomic capital potential for it. So this tool can be heavily relied on when planning, let's say, different regional policy documents or urban policy documents in defining certain areas for certain functional priorities. And it is being tested on the urban structure vision of the territory of Lithuania, which on the Vision 2050, and it can help to identify a certain priorities where to start moving forward in order to balance out the even distribution model of urban regions in Lithuania. That's the vision, because some of you may know that Lithuania chose already some time ago the model of more or less even distribution of people living across the country, and this polycentric development model is being kept, and thus the compass model can help to see where there is lack of certain qualities or values or infrastructure or services, and where some certain investments could follow. It's not a provisional document per se, but it is a perfect indicator tool that can be used for these kind of purposes. And then further work is that when we produce different schemes for different sectors of the spatial compass, it is possible to combine them with certain spatial structures for the 2030, and then to justify some certain let's say even political decisions through real data, which makes perfect sense. The decisions would be based on not on personal belief system, but on real numbers. And here's some of the indicators that are being used in different parts of the compass. I think the organizers of this event will have this in a presentation, and you could get into it and use it accordingly, or take it as a reference if wanted. So this is this scheme shows economic use. So basically, it's agricultural territories and forests that are meant to be used for economic purposes, basically of less value and so on. Then we have a map of protected, highly protected areas, Natura 2000 network, and regional parks. So basically, shows the existing potential for recreational services and so on. So different functional priorities. And so this scheme shows sociocultural and economic capital. So basically, it again it shows the intensity of workers in per area, per small grid, and these heat maps are exactly being they were made of this grid system that I was telling about. These main dots that are indicated, these are major urban centers in the system. And the mobility infrastructure, which again can justify certain decisions being made on political level or municipal level. It is possible to zoom in also like to a certain region and to use this data for this purpose. And these are some synthesis maps. So when we combine the natural preservation areas with agricultural areas, we can also clearly see, and just turn one layer on, turn another layer off, and it's quite nice investigative instrument to really see what's happening, where the trends are changing, and when if the compass would be let's say developed further on, it would also gather the historical transformation of certain areas, and could really have great insights on if policies that are being made on national level or regional level, if they work or not, basically through this set of indicators. This scheme shows anthropogenic environments. Basically, these colors show the human activity at its intensity, and it can again already see some other you can draw some other conclusions out of this one. And it is also possible to use it on a regional level. So, as I said, it's possible to combine different to see to combine it on certain areas. So to zoom in on Vilnius capital, probably everyone knows it. I hope so, part of Lithuania, and then on national level, Vilnius on the concept alternative of 2050 vision. So Vilnius is being partnered with the city of Ukmergė and Utena. What does that mean is that they should share public services, they should share mobility infrastructure, and that the investment which comes from the top, from national level, should be that investment which supports the let's say the shared use of different services and functions and different projects. If there's a new mobility connection or strengthening, let's say modernization of the current railway system, municipalities should work together, and that's why we don't indicate even territorial administration boundaries in these maps, showing that their juridical boundaries are only made by people in nature. They don't exist. So also it works much better through investment funds to strive for different goals, kind of ignoring these juridical boundaries. And also Vilnius and Kaunas is a major partnership between these two cities. It doesn't mean that it should be urbanized like a transport-oriented development, but exactly just to share main facilities between two cities, and that the investment that is going from national scale wouldn't be, let's say, that different municipalities wouldn't fight for it and should share these services. And that's how Compass helps. It also shows where some certain territories are weaker and in public service level or infrastructure, or stronger in recreational potential, and so on. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this brief presentation, and if you have some questions, I might have some time for 1-2 questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Donatas. Yeah, you will not be with us in the panel discussion, so we will post the questions right away. Yeah, very impressive, this interplay between territorial planning and use and impact for the urban areas, cities, municipalities. What would you say in this interplay? What needs to be done to improve this, to make the make better use of it, make the cities and municipalities even smarter, from your perspective?
The thing is that the tool would be alive. What would make it alive? The knowledge that it does exist, complete accessibility to a website where each user can just turn on, turn off different layers and see for themselves. Their show data could track the time that some certain statistics did change. That the continuity of this tool is the most important for its livability and future usage. That would be my answer. And constantly improving the model, because for now we're using the data which exists today, but to indicate some elements more properly, there should be Lithuanian Statistical Department should gather more data on territorial scale, because a lot of data which we encounter that is used gathered only through municipal or juridical boundaries. And what we're doing, we just ignore it, and we want the real territorial grid. And that makes it also like a bit of an issue in showing more precise potential.
So on which side do you see here the need, the biggest need actually to create accessibility? Is it the citizens, or is it the public side, the data holders, or the?
Well, the idea for now is that the owner of this compass, of this tool, would be Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Lithuania, and then it would share all these data sets and tools and indicators with all the other institutions and municipalities that they would be freely access it. And yeah, it's really about accessibility and presentations and letting people know that such tools are already being put in use. And different ministries are, as a matter of fact, are quite excited about it, and they want to be part of it. And everybody wants to join to add up certain indicators and certain elements. But there's danger in putting too many of them to actually really show the potential which it should show.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for sharing these experiences with this new initiative. So we would come to our fourth presentation, Intelligent Energy Labs. So we're coming to the energy sector. Egle Radvile, Vilnius City Startup Booster, will be the presenter.
Okay, so sorry for not joining you later, but thank you very much for the invitation. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Egle, are you with us? Can you hear us? So far, we cannot see her in the chat. We know that she has to leave. Ah, okay. I see in the chat that she's with us, so I guess we need to bring her on the presenter stage. Might be a technical question.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear us, Egle?
Yes, I do.
Good, very good. Sorry for
Okay,
this,
so
for not having you in the panelists so far.
I was like ghost.
But now
Okay,
you're
so
live, and we're looking forward to your talk. I heard that you have to leave sharp, so let's just get started.
okay, so thank you for inviting me here. I will show what I want to show, and I hope that you will enjoy. Start it like that. Okay, so first of all, a little bit about my background. I'm a CTO, so I'm Chief Technology Officer at Vilnius Municipality, and just not to jump into energy. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about digitalization and about Vilnius, how we are doing here, and what does it mean intelligent. So 2 years ago, we accepted all municipality companies, so it's 373 companies here in municipality, that we are joining digital transformation, and we call this strategy Vilnius Twin, means intelligent and integrated. And we have these principles into every project and into each service. And what does it mean? Maybe I can explain, for example, that first of all, that intelligent integrated means that it's every project. Does it matter? It's about sun, about trees, about documentation. It's everything is for person, and everything is for better life for the person in the city as our client. So first of all, it's about well-being and feel comfortable, and then it's about digitalization. So first it's human, then it's digitalization, and we here have a future readiness index. We call it like free, and what does it mean? It means that first of all it's none. It's service that doesn't exist. Then it's paper. We should go somewhere to have a service for simple paper. Then is digital, means that we can send an email to have the service. Then is smart, a lot of devices, a lot of technology, and then is intelligent. Intelligent means that digital is not so important. It is, but it's like a background. So it's our philosophy about intelligent city, where people are living well-being life without computers and telephones in their hands, because services is delivered a little bit earlier than they need. So it's like our vision and our future. And in this city, we have 3 KPIs. First of all is happiness index. We are measuring it through biometric cameras each moment in the streets. And travel time is about, it's not about in the streets and traffic jams. It's about understanding when we have to use cars, when we have to use its life expectancy. So it's about green city. These 3 KPIs is like under 6 principles, and I will not go through these 6 principles because it's long story, but it's what I want to say is that it's not just simple city strategy, and it's not just simple about digitalization. It's in the culture, and it should be in each citizen mind that we should do everything for the better future. And we are working in these 10 areas, and today it's about environment. And I want to present one nice initiative. It's also not just an initiative, it's a project. It is about intelligent energy lab in Vilnius, and it's about green city and about green energy. And what is it? So first of all, we agree here in the city that we should work through cycle economy, through digital economy, and to use any in the city. So what does it mean exactly? We want to create a platform, it's like a sandbox, where everybody who are working here in the city, science and private sector, even schools, even children could be here a part of digital intelligent energy community. So how we'll do it? So first of all, we are trying to, we're not trying, we already did and now we have, I will tell you a little bit about it. We have leadership from the company, a local company, and
Quickly, can you hear me? The connection is getting difficult.
To solve the same problem we in municipality. So how it's about implement Vilnius has his own
I think we have some difficulties here with the connection to Vilnius. I can see that the video now works fine again, so try again. I think it got interrupted.
I can move. I don't know. I can say something. So is it okay now? No?
Yeah, now can hear you much better.
Okay, so I can continue to hear. So is it sure now once again, or it's visible?
No, we don't see any slides at the moment.
It's okay now?
Yeah.
So it's about our vision, but maybe the most important thing is that it's sandbox where everything is about intelligent energy, and maybe it's very important to mention it's about green data also, it's about innovation, and it's about digitalization. So we want to use any possible idea to collect data and to have a decision support center here. So it's like results for energy companies and results for science and results for municipality. So this process is about this and how it will be started. So we already working in these areas. We have some contracts, or maybe a project started, for example, smart metering, for example, cooling temperature, water projects. So we already have these projects, we have new initiatives, and we are inviting other partners. So in the end of this month, we will have a big memorandum, and our city mayor will signature with other partners, and this sandbox will start it like officially. Okay, so it's a little bit about projects and how we will manage it. So we'll have city board of innovation from partners and from private and public sector. So each company in municipality and each company can do possible movement in intelligent energy area. So today, shortly, 15 minutes about this project and about digitalization, about intelligent and integrated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egle, for your presentation, your insights from Vilnius. If you have a minute, there's one question just coming in, directed, I guess, mainly to the Green Deal, so maybe to the intelligent energy sandbox you mentioned. What could be the most promising user cases integrating data from different sectors if you want to support, let's say, the Green Deal?
Okay, so the exactly project I cannot say for this moment, because we are almost started different projects, and then Green Deal was signed because we started at September, and Green Deal is like January, something like that. But it's not a problem because Green Deal is like political, ideological document. So our main document that we are leading, it's like sustainable cities, circular economy, digital data policy of Europe, and of course Green Deal. So this is our 5 documents, and we will lead these documents and as main idea of the Europe. So I think that each project should be connected with this ideological Green Deal thing. So it's not like one, it's okay, and this is not a Green Deal. So it's our ideological document. So it's not just document, it's like policy. So each project should be integrated into these policies.
Okay. And you mentioned this innovation board as a steering group within the city, I suppose. So what are the biggest challenges there between the other ministries or on the city level? So do you think you need to, you could improve the output?
I think that the main input into this sandbox should be researchers, ideas, and maybe experiments or prototypes. Then we can agree about outcomes. So if you are not putting anything, so you cannot expect any outcome for your company. So it depends in what kind of input you will put. So depends on what you get. So I think that companies who are just saying that you should do so in this sandbox, we don't want to have companies like that. We want to have universities, we want to have super future-oriented IT guys and engineers and so on. So if we can collect these people here, so I think it will be no problem with KPIs and outcomes.
Mm-hmm. The initiative started from the city of Vilnius, or?
Yes, initiative started from the city of Vilnius, from our heating company, and now we are connecting others, of course, Vilnius city companies like water company, like even tourism company, because it's very important to have good messages for the foreign people. So I think it's more or less about the companies, partners now.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
for taking
Sorry
the time.
for that connection.
No problem. I hope we are still in time for you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so that's the input. Now we have the 4 presentations, and now we'll move on to the panel discussion. We still have Jin Tausas with us. We still have Lasma with us, and I think in addition we will have 2 of our project partners joining the panel, Sivile Simkute from the Kaunas Technical University and Christoph Kaunas from the city of Riga. Here they are. Welcome.
Hi, hello.
Okay. So maybe we start with you, as you have not been presenting now, but you listened, of course, carefully. What was the what was, from your perspective, the newest and most promising idea you heard in this webinar so far?
I think the most interesting part is that I would say that the part that the companies and institutes, educational institutions are trying to continue with their research regardless of state or municipal baseline. So I'm trying to phrase this carefully. However, what I mean here is that I think that's quite a place for startups, NGOs, and maybe in some cases even private companies to initiate this process where a lot of unknown is. We, as a municipal institution, I also have the luxury to sit on several chairs and have also training in urban planning. We always talk about how we could apply data-driven decisions in our urban planning everyday life. However, that data comes from somewhere, and a lot of that data comes from projects and sensors and ideas that haven't been tested. And I think there's a large place which probably cannot be set or filled in by state, or probably also not by every municipality, because we are kind of by definition conservative. We should know where the money of our inhabitants go to, and whether that's, so there's a limit of our risk appetite. So I think this is the most interesting part, and I admire those cases where municipalities or public partners come in and join in with that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's just stay in Riga for a moment. Lasma, you got some questions and adding on to your presentation. Have you any plans about the expansion of sharing this public infrastructure to public testing? Is there a certain limit, or is it just an organizational limit for you to run this?
Well, I think from our, as an NGO perspective, we probably shouldn't be the ones that run a testbed network all across the city or the country. So from our side, the interest is to stay focused on the district that we're working on, and also the foreign best practices show that for testbeds, it's good to keep things compact, not spread around different locations. But expectations for city, for municipality from our side would be that they would understand themselves and create this network of public infrastructure points where companies and startups and students and universities can access and use. Because currently you know which parts of land are owned by municipality or private actors, but you don't know anything about utility poles. And basically for this mobility point example, what we had is that the land is owned by municipality, the utility pole is owned by the public transport operator. For some reason, the electricity inside this utility pole is owned by Rigas Gaisma, which is street light company. So it's a very complicated structure, and it would be nice if the municipality could determine, okay, these 20 points, these 50 points across the city, we know who is the owner, who you have to approach, use them. So that would be kind of the next step I would suggest in this topic.
I totally agree with Lasma. I think cities should take off this load from private partners and NGO non-governmental partners. So this is exactly what we could and should do.
Yeah, very good point. Do you actually measure the impact of all these testbed sensors initiatives from private companies, or any behavior change or results the companies might share at the end?
I think Lithuanian experience could be much better here. For us in Riga, this is our prime and one of the first projects, definitely the first one that goes by a non-governmental sector. City does have several data collection points, primarily by the air quality and traffic counting systems. They're not a lot, they're enough for the purpose, and we try to use them as good as possible, but they're not open. They're definitely not open to everyone. And on many occasions, it's not even a decision to not make them open. It's just that it has never occurred to us to make them open. And we definitely don't know why should we spare the energy or waste energy to make them open. So this is something that probably has to change in our minds, because on the other side of the fence, in the same department, we always whine about the lack of data and lack of creative use of that data. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sibile, let's come to Kaunas. We heard from the governmental level in Lithuania, from the planning, but also from the example of Vilnius. So how do you see this interplay maybe in Kaunas between city and government in these open data initiatives?
In Lithuania, generally, all municipalities makes their own decision, except when it is required by the state. For example, because I'm an urbanist, so I know most about the spatial data. So a municipality every second year, they have to provide a lot of information in terms of how many culture centers they have, where they are, how many kilometers of cycling roads we have, where they are, and so on. So this is collected, and this is collected quite well in cities and in Kaunas as well. But then the problem starts when you try to put all the information into a national database, where, for example, if I require some kind of data from municipality, they fill in the table, they print out the table, they sign it, they scan it, and they send it to me. And then I retype it. And it's possible that I make a mistake, and then I put it into a national database. And this happens and then you see the database and you check the information from last year, and then you compare it with the Department of Statistics, and it's different. And it's different because it was inserted in January, because we are required to put it before end of January, but it's updated in March. So we are putting for the last year, we're putting information of actually a year back, because information for last year is dated in March. And there's all these kind of mismatches, and until you actually try working with it, you don't see the scale of the problem we have. But as what Gintautas talked about, and I think it would be really good if he answered from what he really sees the big picture of starting from the data generators, or those who actually fill in those Excel sheets, print them, sign them, scan them, to actually the national databases. So I would love to hear his opinion.
Yeah. Let's hand over. I understood that digital is not intelligent, but we are on the way to make digital also intelligent. So how does it work?
At the moment, everyone wants to have the data to make decisions. And it's easy to work with, how to say, quality data. But then you try to talk about this 80% of extracting, loading, and preparing the data. Everybody just goes away from that. But we need to sometime drain that swamp and start talking about this. Because as I said in my presentation, we're still thinking in documents, filling them forms, making tables by hand, but that's not our job to do. Give that job to machines, to computers. We have all these sensors, but we should define the language and how we describe that data. So the one institution which has certain type of data describe the same type of data in that institution the same. So they use the same metadata language. Then if we will receive the data with certain marking from one institution, it will match the overall set you are having. But this requires quite a big literacy among the decision makers who make these decisions and putting in place in government. And for that, we need to make these quite difficult concepts of data, translate that to very, very simple selling points. What is your benefits of making this decision and how you should present to the people who don't even talk data. And only then we can start implementing. Yes, we will always have these small decisions, small test beds. We will make something to solve an immediate problem. But it will be just a patchwork or small pool in swamp, not to drown in all the data we have around. We need islands of data. We need to use current technology which is available, but we have the tools, but at the moment we don't have agreement to use them.
Okay, so we are too slow in implementing. There was a question about standardization in this area. So what is missing?
Standardization is agreeing on metadata, because if we take government data, we have registers. It's in your constitution. You can tell the registers are master data. All additional data in all information systems across the government is just base register, and you add some field to it at a certain function some institution does. But you should be able to link that data and how it is increasing richness of the register object. And you need to use the metadata language to describe the connection between initial request from register and adding some data. And later, business reports a lot of information to government, and it reports to add richness to the register objects. So if you give the APIs to the business will be glad to use that, because they're like 10 years ahead in IT compared to government. They will be ready to connect and make automatic enrichment of your register objects. But now we are requesting to fill a form, give me a table, fill in something. That's not the way to go.
Not the way to go in Lithuania, or do you think this
across the world? We are in Lithuania. We are starting to understand that, and we are selling the idea internally. Because as I said in some other interview, we will be digital in 20 years. we want that or not. If we will make some effort, we will be digital in 10 years. If we will make a big effort, we will be digital in 5 years. So which option we choose?
Okay. So I think you mentioned couple of times digital literacy. So what can the universities, Sibila, do to support this? It's not awareness raising, it's more like fundamental education needed.
Yeah, I totally agree that in every, you can integrate data literacy lectures or introduction to what is data everywhere, because specialists who will have to understand data will be needed everywhere, in municipalities to make their life easier, in universities to make research easier, in businesses. That is very important. And you don't need to be a data architect, or how the specialists are calling, but to even have the basic understanding what it is, what to look for, what is it used for, that should be included, that should be known by every student in universities. And it's up to us to try to teach that. And we do that. We do, do projects where students have to find information, where they have to validate it, where they have to think about where it comes from, how to write it down. We do introduction of GIS to environmental engineering students. And it is, at some point in life, it will, the logic, how it works, really, we hope it will be valuable to them. Mm-hmm. But again, I would go to Gintautas for more on that question as well.
Well, Christoph raised his hand. I think you want to add on here.
Yeah, a lot of has already been said, and I really like that Gintautas already mentioned the data literacy. And well, and then actually there's a chasm here that we are looking at. It is all fine and nice to be upset about the lack of the literacy at the moment, of the data literacy, and coming up with the solution that our educational system should be changed to this new implementation of data literacy in a better way, will solve our problem in 20 years. So we need to talk about what do we do by those 20 years and how do we solve this problem right now. And that's actually quite an interesting challenge and a question. I think it was, it connects to one question that I read in a questions and answers section. That was, it was formulated like, what's an approach for municipal data and how, well, making it public is requires some costs and some effort, and who should pay for that? And I think, the original answer is right. Municipality should pay for that because municipality already, well, it is our collective money and it kind of already has the task to make it public. But by extension, we know and understand that people within those 20 years, like right now, will not be the ones who will probably do a huge change in this. So who will? And I think that's an interesting, that is an interesting part. And that's the place for NGOs, some startups. And maybe if we're crazy enough, and if we have some politicians that are crazy enough, maybe some kind of, task force in municipality that goes around every kind of institution and says, all right, you have this interesting data set. Can we make it public or do something with it? Which requires some, some freedom and creativity and probably something that is super difficult to write up in a law or something that regulates municipal action. So there's this problem that requires some super and really creative solutions, in my opinion. So that's an interesting point to tackle.
Someone would like to answer or add on to this?
I like to expand a little bit on this.
Yeah.
So if you have data in municipality, one of the things is to sell an idea to you as municipality. What is the benefit for your opening and who will pay for that? As I mentioned in my presentation, you can decide to do that without putting even one penny, then you will be updating your IT systems every 5-7 years. So just make one of the technical requirements for your data structure to be open via APIs. Because if you use that data in your everyday activities, the data is there in the systems, but you need a mechanism to give that safely outside. And after that, if it is implemented correctly, you can charge for commercial use and even get something. You can give certain restrictions, like you can download this or that amount or this amount of lines. And if you above the threshold, you can start charging because it becomes the commercial data providing. And with opening the data, as I listed in my presentation, you have a lot of benefits which can make your life easier by opening the data, by gaining the trust of your citizens and or your municipality people. So it's the selling the idea to the decision makers. And decision makers, if you look at them, they are like something 50, 60, most probably. They saw first computer, then they were 30. So they learned to use computer just for basic, like sending an email, opening spreadsheet, writing something. They will not learn how artificial intelligence operates, but they will be able to use it every day as you use the search right now, as you look for Netflix recommendation. Every time you use something on computer surface, public services, you are using AI, but you don't need to know how to use that. So the same is like present the benefits of open data to the decision makers in simple terms. They don't need to understand open data. They need to see the benefit of open data to make their lives easier. And then technical knowledge and tools are there. If decision is made, it can happen.
Okay, so I would like to come to one point of which is, let's say, one of the main backgrounds of the project. It's the climate mitigation to increase the complexity here a little bit. So how can we increase what cities and all these initiatives do to increase the climate mitigation projects based on open data? So Lasma, in your district, I mean, you have the mobility point. What kind of other initiatives concerning climate mitigation you are planning or are up and running already?
Within the mobility point, actually, one of the sensors that will be already deployed will be related to CO2 emission control. Well, not to control, for detecting. So I guess that is one of the first steps towards understanding what's happening, because in Riga, I understand there are 5 large monitoring stations that kind of provide the big picture, but you cannot really follow the info specifically in locations. So that would be one of the first steps. Secondly, we together with partners also try to organize at least 2 hackathons related to new solution generation every year. And I think for NGOs and for innovation districts in general, this should be the main task, to push for using the available data, to push for coming up with new solutions. So yes, I think that would be the also something that we cannot forget in this discussion about opening data, that we also need to talk about the data that is open and try to encourage companies to use them and try to find innovative ways. The problem, I think, is that at the moment, I think the official statistics was that only 1% of the whole data that has been published in European Union is real time and machine readable, which would be from business perspective, the most interesting type of data that they could use. So I would say from municipality and from public institution side, the first step would be to understand what data they are gathering at the moment now and prioritize the things that they are gathering close to real time. There will, of course, never be true real time, but once 15 minutes or once a minute data updates, I think that could be prioritized for new solution generation on the basis of open data. And lastly, I think that would be also a huge push towards other institutions to work on opening their data, because if there is the first success case, or the first few success cases, it becomes more interesting and they can actually see the value in this. I would be completely against charging companies that want to use data, because I think that's it is public information and it should be publicly accessible. But the success cases would be something beneficial.
Thank you very much. Christoph, you want to add on from the Riga perspective?
Yeah, I can. Sure. Well, while I totally agree with with Lasme that we should charge for data, but yeah, you still need to maintain the infrastructure, and some fair cost should and could be applied, as Gintautas already mentioned, and that's quite a good point that he added here. But I'd say from Riga City point, we have a lot of initiatives and a lot of projects in pipeline that would try to solve this situation, to make some parts of the system, especially in mobility and also maybe of sensor data and from energetics and some data digital. But the problem is that municipality is incredibly complex machine and an incredibly slow machine, or slow to change. And we always get into those points where from the top or outside of the system looks really digital and well maintained. And then you get, or further you go into analyzing that system, you finally figure out that once you click that button in the application, then some monkey picks your order up and goes somewhere and reads or writes down the measurement in some place. Or I'm using this liberally, or somebody is actually opening a spreadsheet or sending out spreadsheets to different institutions, and then they are being collected and then given to you as a data. So that's a huge challenge to overcome, and it kind of needs to come from the other end. It all needs to be built digital. So changing the current system might even prove impossible, let's say, or challenging at least. But while changing the system, we should build it grounds up all digital. So that's probably something we should start working on.
What did you mean with the other end? Who should give the push effect here?
Christoph described a very nice example of electronization of your services. You have ability to order service online, you have ability to receive the result online, but that's not digital service. Because electronic, it's PDFs, documents, process broken to documents. But if you design processes, let's forget documents. Let's think about the data you need to input, how it is transformed during the way to the final result. And only then, if needed, generate PDF, Word, or some document. Because it's changing our thought process. And this thought process is sometimes, not sometimes, very often written document in state documents, laws, and regulations they require you to have a document. But come on, it's digital age. Let's move towards data.
Yeah. And from your perspective on the governmental level, the climate mitigation activities, is this something in your committee you deal with, or this has been taken into account in the standardization procedures?
What we did in the last year in government, we mapped our information resources, information systems, and how they interact with each other. So how many data points we have, and how to find the set data. Is it what technology that interface uses? And we saw a big depth. It's approachable. You can see the system in that. Of course, the registers are most connected, but it was organic growth without any system. We need a certain system to do certain function. We create that without thinking. It was growing organically, but if we want to move towards digital, we need to separate the system, information systems as tools, and to look at the data as a resource. Now, in a lot of countries, it is one and the same. System holds data, but data is a resource. System has its own functionality without even 0 bits of data. It's just data structure in there, maybe, but not the data itself. And then on a third, we have users, internal, externals, machines, and human actors. So if you separate this into very digestible chunks, even people who don't have any experience in data start to think, yeah, it seems logical. Let's make a data structure, describe that. Then we describe what tools we need to work with this data, and then we define the users, machines, humans, and again. So, but if you start talking about all government state infrastructure, you have a blank. Nobody sees you or lose you on a second minute. So at the moment in committee, I just spend half of my time translating these concepts to very, very easy to understand messages for decision makers.
Okay. Let's have a final round. One question to everybody. This was now the webinar series on open data in the smart city concepts. So what would be your wish? What would need to change next, highest priority in your perspective? Ladies first. Lasma, would you like to start?
Yes, well, I guess the priority for me would be what I already mentioned, that that municipalities would try to understand what real-time data they can publish, and generally do this data audit, understanding what is easy for them to publish and what is not. And I know that there are a lot of interest in trying to understand which would be the best data, the most interesting data. But I guess from innovation perspective, we never know what kind of data would be useful for someone. So I guess I would suggest starting with data audit as soon as possible and trying to prioritize real-time or close to real-time options.
Okay, thank you. Svile, you're next.
I will add to what Lasma said and add the answer to the last question as well, because I really wanted to talk about that, but very shortly. Because we're talking about climate mitigation, and the last webinar on purpose, we tried to ask a question: what is first, chicken or an egg? Is it first innovation? Is it first data? And we tried to provoke speakers to think if more data would be published on the topic of most vulnerable systems in the city. For example, in Lithuania, our transport, heating systems, and water management, which I can think of really fast that we have problems here, and we should know what's going on, and we should find innovative solutions how to deal with that. So because there's so much data, so many Excel sheets that could be translated quite easily actually into data sets that could be usable, start with the problematic areas. We have a climate emergency. So let's start with these topics of transport, energy, and water management, for example, and waste management. And just publish as much as possible. First, to understand yourself, the scope of the problem, and then make it easier to make decisions. For example, we have a flood, and so that we can easily understand where was the most damage, why, how permeable the surface is, blah, 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 all of that. And companies will take this data and find solutions for drainage systems, for, I don't know, detecting where the most problematic areas might be depending on the weather conditions. You can think of so many things. So my suggestion would be not to start publishing everything, prioritize, and maybe start prioritizing with the climate emergency, thinking about climate, thinking about where the most vulnerable places are, and let the market or the the NGO sector help you deal with these problems.
Good, thank you. Christos.
Since I currently represent municipality and planning and energy posts here, I would say that for the climate mitigation, I would say that some kind of a process or even economical process could be created with financial, forgot about this English term. So financial incentive, to create some kind of financial incentive to make those data systems available publicly and openly. So let's say we have some public offers and public tenders, and we could prioritize those who invest in some certain amount of openness of data, because most of that data still lies in the private companies and their inner circles. They have the data. So that's one point that I would go towards in climate mitigation. And then a lot of data would be available, and then we, as everybody already said, we would come up with some creative ideas how to utilize them. Mm-hmm. However, when we talk about municipality, I would say that starting small is a key, and I think starting with some brave small team that can go around existing system and find those good examples, as everybody mentioned here. So you need to convince people that opening data makes your lives better. How better to do that than going into your office and saying, see those flowers behind you? I can water them automatically and leave you those 20 minutes here for your coffee or better more creative job where you can earn more money, right? So let's start doing those things that companies already do in municipality and maybe state institutions. So I would say that's a way to go.
Okay, good. Tintoras.
I try to use already created tools. All of our countries already have open data portals, which provide you the platform to express your need for data set and how to make an opening process. And usually every country has a certain amount of open data activists, as you can say. And one of the things I'm looking at committee and we prepared is, we looked at our legislative system. If I can invite to work entrepreneurs as pro bono, like he is donating his time and experience for free for government or for municipality to offer his knowledge to make some change. And so you should try to prepare this, how you can invite him to provide his experience for free. And people do that. And you just need to ask. And additionally, we are thinking to make a open data, not even open, data sandbox. Because open data is just a subset of all data. But a lot of high value solutions are created not from open data, but from more also eternal data, but that can give you solutions and maybe make a decisions to open that data. So data sandbox, where you can work with real data, but in closed and safe environment for the, and you would be protected from a data leak. That helps to innovate much faster, because if you would look to open data, which requires all anonymization, or it loses a lot of its internal meaning. So, but if you can work with real data, it can provide you with much more valuable solutions to move forward. So use your already existing open data portals, consolidate all links, because the more data, different data you have, the more different view angles to the problem you can use by working with the data and the problem. And then approach people who likes open data. They are there and they speak data. They can even teach you how to work with data.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the last round. Time is up, unfortunately. I think we could discuss even longer. There's a lot of issues to deal with, to look into. We heard of them, and we heard also in your wishes that we need more initiatives, more processes, more sandboxes. Let's just try and do as good as we can by now and keep going on the path on further digitalization, also for the best of the climate. I would like to give the final word to Saneta to sum up maybe today's webinar, and after that just inform you about the next steps in our projects, the Kiel webinar series. Saneta,
Yes.
how was it?
Yes, so thank you, Frank. I think it was very nice finalization of the whole series of our free webinars organized by Kaunas University of Technology and our wonderful partners. And I would really want to thank all of them since very first webinar, the second, and this one, showing the importance of the open data, because we saw the possibilities and of open data to use from the startups up to the governmental institutions and also municipalities. And I think the data play a very important, I should say crucial role in our lives, quality monitoring for decision making, also fostering innovations and development of cities, and doesn't matter where the city is. So I would like to thank once again all the presenters, also Adelphi for the organizing, and you, Frank, for the perfect moderation. And also I hope that this cycle of webinars was very useful for all participants, and that it was all the webinars were virtual. It's not maybe a shortage, but I do hope that we met not the last time, and it were so many questions about the competences, about the possibilities to collaborate. So I really invited all participants to collaborate and also to reach us if you need some or you have some ideas requests for new projects or some consultations, or even you have the wish to raise your competence. So I would like to take an opportunity and to advertise our master program on sustainable management and production we have at our institute. Also PhD programs. Also, if you need some quality rise courses. So we are really willing to help all of them. So yes, thank you very much, all of them. And I do hope we will meet once again. Thank you very much. Frank?
Later. Thank you. Yeah, let's ask the participants if this was, again, increasing their competences. A final round, a final poll is prepared. It comes up, I hope. Let's have the last one. After the 3 webinars about open data, did it open your view towards opening up? There's a very big majority in favor of it. Thank you very much. And the last one would be, how relevant was today's webinar for your work? Was this useful? A little reflection, and while you're making your choice, as presented in the beginning, we will have the next webinar after the summer break. This is the Kiel session, Kiel in northern Germany, and we will present dates and topics also on our website. So we hope to see and hear you again when we continue in September. Yeah, and thanks for the result. This was useful. This is most important, of course. We're doing this for the exchange between the Baltic states and Germany, and to learn from each other's experiences. And also a big thanks from my side to all the speakers and participants to opening up their knowledge, and they're giving us some insights. So we leave you with that. The record was recorded. Presentations will be made available, and we wish you a very nice summer break, and we hope to be in touch again in September. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.